Very good afternoon to everyone. Okay, I am Dr. Kalyani Nandedkar. Most of you must have discussed your project topics with me on phone calls. So today is the first time we are meeting for a discussion on a topic. The topic is very close to every healthcare worker's heart, that is patient safety and quality. Now today is the last day of 2020, and we have suffered a lot in this year, especially the healthcare industry has seen unprecedented uh, ups and downs in this 2020. Uh, so, uh, so this patient safety and quality has become a buzzword these days. So with the new year coming and along with all our resolutions, let us move towards one more resolution of patient safety and quality, or at least at our individual level. Okay, with this lecture. So we will start now. Okay, am I audible? Just a second. No? There is some problem with my. Yeah. So this is a picture. Many times this meme we see and we laugh at, but this such kind of serious events are occurring commonly in our healthcare scenarios. What is happening here? The patient is supposed to be on ventilator, and a cleaning worker has come. The attendant has come. She has a electronic equipment to clean the floor, and to operate that she needs to plug that equipment in a socket. So she saw that here is a socket, but some another thing is plugged here. She plugs that out and plugs in her equipment, and she starts cleaning. And with this, what will happen to the patient? Okay, so as a on a lighter mode, this is okay to view as a meme, but we come across such medical errors, such silly medical errors where we do not intend. Instead, we intend to help the patient, but the resultant is something else. Why so? Why so? We then conduct the analysis, then why this has happened, and how this can happen. So we find out n number of reasons. Maybe the healthcare worker was not, the cleaning worker was not aware the severity of patient condition. She was not well versed with the medical equipment like ventilators. Maybe no other socket is available in that room. Only one socket is available in that room, or if at all there is any available, she just doesn't know where the another socket is there. or the wire provided is not sufficient from that extra socket to clean the entire room. So n number of reasons can be there, you know, for such medical errors or adverse events. But the resultant or the outcome of such errors is only one, that is harm to the patient. That harm can be it permanent or temporary, death or disability. Anything may occur with this. Okay, okay, wait a minute. Screen share is off, I guess. I will just wait. I will just check what has happened. I hope it is visible now. Okay, just let me check if it is visible now. Okay, so I was discussing about this picture where the healthcare worker has plugged off the ventilator and plugged in her cleaning equipment. And we discussed about that. The reasons behind medical errors can be numerous, but the resultant, final resultant is saying that hampered patient outcome. And which is the last thing we expect in healthcare. The first reason for existence of healthcare system is to provide sound clinical care. Okay, we are not here to provide free Wi-Fi. We are not here to provide, healing architecture or plush landscapes and AC rooms or five-star facilities and amenities in hospitals. We are here to simply provide safe clinical care with better patient outcomes. Okay, so with this, we have emerged with lot of. Just a second, I will just check if my PPT is correctly visible to you all. Just a second, give me a moment. Okay, sorry for that technical glitch. We were discussing that quality. We were discussing that intentions of healthcare system. So it is here only to provide safe clinical care with better patient outcomes. Healthcare interventions are intended to benefit patients, but they can also cause harm, isn't it? We have in today's our healthcare delivery system, we have many processes and technologies, you know, so that has evolved. The modern healthcare system has evolved to be more complex with a view to provide significant benefits to the consumers, to the patients. However, it also involves an inevitable risk of adverse event that can happen too often with the patients, and but yet which is very less expected. No one expects that I am coming to a hospital. No healthcare worker thinks that I'm coming to a hospital and someone get harms because of my care. Okay, everyone wants to work and everyone wants to contribute significantly towards our final goal of better patient outcome, right? Coming to the point that better patient outcome. So today we have rise in cost of care. We have rise in affordability of patients towards spending against healthcare expenses. We have insurance in the health insurance in the picture. We have government agencies in the picture by providing healthcare. So everyone expects that healthcare should be delivered with prime quality. No one think that I should be delivered, I should be only cured with medicines and all. You know, everyone is aware the information about additional value additions or preventive measures related to disease, everyone knows. Okay, so everyone has that information, and that is why they demand from the hospitals that they should provide whatever avenues are available for his better health, isn't it? So let us see that why it is so important to deliver quality. Yeah, here we have a case that a 50-year-old woman who was accidentally administered epinephrine instead of midazolam. Okay, and the patient had come to hospital with a history of abdominal pain and altered bowel habits. So her colonoscopy was scheduled, and as a part of preparation for colonoscopy, she was supposed to be administered midazolam 5 mg. But suddenly, before the procedure, she started to complain chest tightness, difficulty breathing, generalized tremors, and then the nurses and doctors investigated what has happened, and it was discovered that a medication error has been occurred. What kind of medication error? That instead of giving her midazolam, she was being administered with 0.25 mg epinephrine. So the procedure, the result, the outcome was the procedure was postponed, patient was suffered. Okay, so then why this error has been occurred? The root cause analysis was conducted. That the epinephrine and midazolam ampule are look alike ampules. Okay, so when the pharmacist, earlier patient's prescription was there, he has kept that unused epinephrine there, and he mistakenly thought that it was epinephrine and delivered, considering it is midazolam, delivered that epinephrine to the colonoscopy patient. And the same was even administered to the patient without looking at the name on the ampule, just because this error was because of look-alike medications. So, such type of errors occur in healthcare. Few errors result into harm. Few errors do not cause any harm to the patient. But does that mean that harm has not occurred or any adverse event has not occurred? Does that mean that such events should not be avoided, should not be prevented? No. Such events, such errors, whether they are causing harm or not causing harm, should be avoided. So we as a healthcare worker should work to avoid such errors. So why so? So why should we, if something is not causing harm, or why should we bother so much about safety? What is the burden of unsafe patient care? So here are OECD report on World Patient Safety Day 2020. 17 September is a World Patient Safety Day. So here are some facts that on an average, 1 in 10 hospitalization results in safety failure of adverse or adverse events. So 1 in 10 hospitalizations. So how many hospitalizations we have in a day in a one hospital? So of those hospitals, so 10 in 1. So what is the proportion? Proportion is huge. As many as 4 out of 10 patients experience safety issues in primary and ambulatory care. It is just a patient experience, huh? 4 out of 10. So those errors which have not resulted into harm go as unexperienced safety issues. And this is not only about safety of or clinical outcomes. The further is of interest of organization as well, the hospital expenditure. Today hospital, yes, it is a noble profession, but they are run on commercial basis as well. So hospitals are cared about their finances, hospitals are cared about their profits. So if they are spending 15% of their total expenditure on correcting their safety failures, then it is a huge amount. They could have invested instead in quality improvement initiatives instead of correcting their patient safety failures. 15% of expenditure. So, or they could have spent their this 15% expenditure on marketing their services, or they could have made the profit out of it. So that is why unsafe care is a uh, unsafe care is a reason to worry for hospital as well as for healthcare workers. So as we know that many adverse events are preventable. Yes, they are preventable. So we are wasting our money, the hospitals are wasting their money on preventable mistakes. That is why hospitals have to work towards avoiding such preventable errors or events. Further, we have WHO fact sheet. Okay, and the key facts in that fact sheet say that the occurrence of adverse event due to unsafe care is likely one of the 10 leading causes of death and disability across the world. Okay, then high income countries, even in high income countries, it is estimated that 1 in 10 patient is harmed while receiving hospital care, and 50% of them are preventable. In each year, here we are talking about low and middle income countries, that 134 million adverse events occur in hospitals due to unsafe care, and the number of deaths because of unsafe care is 2.6 million deaths. Another study has estimated that around two-thirds of all adverse events resulting from unsafe care and the year lost to disability and death occur in low and middle income countries. The investments reducing patient harm can lead to significant financial savings and, more importantly, better patient outcomes. The example of prevention is engaging patients if done well. It can reduce the burden of harm by up to 15%. So these are the facts and figures we have. Okay, so with this all facts and figures, are we sure that our hospitals and health systems are prepared to deliver quality care? We have learned over last decade that adverse events occur not because bad people intentionally hurt patients, but rather that the system of healthcare today is so complex that the successful treatment and outcome of each patient depends on the range of factors. Okay, it just does not depend on clinical competence of healthcare provider. Okay, until the beginning of the century, healthcare was just one-on-one doctor and patient relationship. The focus was only treating the disorder. But with the tremendous rise in pharmaceutical evolution in pharmaceutical industry, various kind of therapies, rise in healthcare cost, or the concepts like evidence-based healthcare, the demands of public have also increased, and also the accountability of healthcare. Yeah. So with this connection, we need to more stringently look at this aspect, isn't it? So let us see what is quality. So if patients are asking for quality, then let us understand what is quality. So quality is quality in manufacturing or service or production, any industry. Quality is totality of features or characteristic of a service or product that bear on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. So healthcare caters to most of the implied needs. Patients are not aware what his health exactly needs. So healthcare industry more or less is here to fulfill the implied needs of the consumer or the patients in totality of its features and characteristics. So let us go to the next definition, quality in healthcare. Quality is the degree to which health services for individual and populations increase the likelihood of desired health outcomes and are consistent with current professional knowledge. Yes, this phrase is very important, that current professional knowledge. So what is quality improvement? Quality improvement is combined and unceasing efforts of everyone to make the changes that will lead to better patient outcomes, better system performance, and better professional development. So why I said earlier that based on current professional knowledge is very important. So any death or any disability occurring out of any disease is not failure to quality, is not failure of safety. Suppose if a person met a road traffic accident, had a heavy blood loss, and he was brought to the casualty department. He already had a heavy blood loss, and as soon as he was admitted, uh, he died. Okay, uh, so this, we will not term this as hampered quality, but however, there was a road traffic accident and the patient was brought to the hospital, and the heavy blood loss was due to that he was not attended within expected time. He was there in casualty untreated for say for 15-20 minutes without any nurse or doctor assessing or intervening his condition. Then here we will call it as poor quality. Okay, as we have seen in earlier slides, that patient safety initiatives focus on minimizing the preventable errors. So patient safety and quality both go hand in hand. Okay. So let us see that how quality, safety is integral part of quality. While we are delivering quality, while we are thinking of delivering quality, or we are planning for quality management, implementation of a quality improvement program, safety is an integral part of that program. So, Institute of Medicine has described elements of quality care in hospitals. So these are the elements. The elements are safe, timely, effective, efficient, patient-centered, and equitable. So these are the 6 elements of quality. So when we deliver the package of these 6, then we complete the complete the program of quality, complete the service with quality. So for this, what we need to summarize, it has been written here, the team values, education training, and environment. So with all these components, we will be able to deliver quality, isn't it? So since we say that patient safety is very important, let us see what are these 8 elements. So safe is delivering healthcare that minimizes risk and harm to service users, including avoiding preventable injuries and reducing medical errors. Effectiveness is providing services based on scientific knowledge and evidence-based guidelines. Timeliness is reducing delays in providing and receiving healthcare. Efficiency is delivering healthcare in a manner that maximizes resource use and avoids waste. Equitability in healthcare is that does not differ the quality according to personal characteristics such as gender, race, ethnicity, etc. And patient-centeredness is providing that care that takes into account the preferences and aspirations of individual service users and culture of their community. So with these all elements, we are aware that safety is the first and foremost feature of quality. So how do we define safety, patient safety? So here are various definitions of patient safety which say that patient safety is basically freedom from accidental injury or more broadly avoiding injuries to patient from the care that is intended to help them. Or WHO has given a simpler definition that prevention of error and adverse events to patient associated with healthcare. One more definition says that the avoidance, prevention and amelioration of adverse outcomes or injuries stemming from the processes of healthcare. These events include errors, deviations and accidents. Safety emerges from the interaction of components of the system. It does not reside in a person, device or department. Improving safety depends on learning how safety emerges from interaction of components. So we understand from here that patient safety is a subset of healthcare quality. So let us compare safety and quality. Here it is, comparison is already given that safety has to do with lack of harm. Quality has to do with efficient, effective and purposeful care. Safety focuses on avoiding bad events. Quality focuses on doing things well. Safety makes it less likely that mistakes happen, and quality raises the ceiling of so the overall care experience is better one. So safety is often defined as avoidance of injury or a harm. Okay, and quality is typically defined as achieving best possible healthcare outcomes. So if you want best possible healthcare outcomes, you have to avoid the injuries and unexpected, unwanted injuries and harm should be avoided as a first step. Okay, to achieve the better health outcomes, we have to avoid the uh, unwanted injuries and harm to the patient arising from the care provided. Safety is considered as one of the multiple domains of quality. Safety can also be considered synonym with quality. Some of they think so. Regardless, both safety and quality are driven by system of care, and improvement methods should focus on understanding and improving these systems. So we have seen that what is the burden of unsafe care on our healthcare system. So one more report of IOM, To Err is Human, says that medical error can be defined as failure of a planned action to be completed as intended or the use of wrong plan to achieve an aim. Majority of errors are caused by faulty systems, processes, conditions that lead people to make mistakes or fail to prevent them. So here these definitions are not blaming the care provider. Okay, they are blaming the systems, processes and conditions or situations around them. So basically healthcare workers are not at fault. The system is. Yes, some of the times healthcare workers are also at fault, but that is again that will be termed as negligence then. So negligence and error are different. So here, if we want to provide quality, of course, certainly negligence is a serious thing and it is a very separate matter. Okay, so and negligence is something that the system also they cannot avoid. The person is accountable for that, whatever adverse outcome that will come out of it. But the error only single person or the nurse who is administering the wrong drug, she is only not accountable for administration of wrong drug, but the entire system is accountable in this case. So what are the common concerns related to patient safety? What are the major hurdles in achieving patient safety goals? That are medication errors, as we discussed earlier, the case we discussed earlier. Then healthcare associated infections. Yeah, the patient has admitted for knee replacement and he gets infected with coronavirus. So this example is very fresh. We have seen this in our family, in our institute, and we have suffered a lot of with this since in this last year. Antimicrobial resistance. You had a wonderful lecture by Dr. Urvi Shukla on antimicrobial resistance. So you know the gravity of the problem. Unsafe surgical procedure, that is a very big problem as far as India is concerned. Not the big hospital, but the small healthcare, small nursing homes. Unsafe surgical procedure is a very likely problem. Unsafe injection practices, diagnostic errors, unsafe transfusion practices, radiation errors, security and privacy of patient data. So in India, at least in India, security and privacy are the least bothered things. But over the time, people will start understanding that how much of importance it is. So we have to take care of all these concerns if we want to address the safety issue, which is one of the element while delivering quality care. So we have these issues with in our hospitals. What is the impact of these issues on quality of care? So these are few points. These are the few outcomes that we get from unsafe care. That is reduction in patient satisfaction. First and foremost, your patient is not satisfied. He is suffering. His family is suffering. He is having additional length of stay. He is having additional economic burden, loss of man hours, man working his working days. So with all this, he is not satisfied about your services. Then increase in distress among clinicians or healthcare workers. Yeah, if you are treating a same complaining patient again and again, it creates distress among clinicians. So that is why the healthcare workers are called as second victim of any adverse event. Increases likelihood of litigations. Yeah, if your patient is well aware, is educated, and he understood that the whatever has wrong symptoms I'm getting, adverse events I'm getting is because of your medical error, then he will sue the hospital in court. Then duplication of work. So you have to again and again give the treatment to the patient for newer complaints every day. Loss of opportunity for improving quality, degrades institutional culture and climate, and the last thing that any organization will expect is reduction in public trust in healthcare. So these are the impact of unsafe care on quality. So that is why it is important to address the concerns of patient safety. So considering all this, in India, we have NABH 5th edition. Okay, it has been in February 2020, it has been published. So in that 5th edition, a major change is we have seen, that is the chapter on continuous quality improvement. It is revised as patient safety and quality. Okay, so while you are implementing the continuous quality improvement program, it should go along with the patient safety goals, patient safety program, patient safety initiatives. Okay, so that is why we need to understand that if we want to focus more on quality, we have to correct our safety failure rates. So here we have JCIs. International Patient Safety Goals. What are these goals? Improve accuracy of patient identification. Okay, how it can be achieved? That using at least two patient identifiers. Okay, not only the patient room or location. Before when we should identify the patient correctly before administering the medication, before administering blood or blood products, or before taking a sample, before taking him to a surgery, isn't it? So all these are important procedures, and for that we need to assure, we need to be accurate, we need to be sure that the same patient is intended for this procedure. Improve the effectiveness of communication among caregivers. Communication is very important while we are delivering quality of care. Without having a sound communication system, we cannot deliver care because our processes, our system is interlinked with so many departments. So that is why it is important that we have to build a robust communication system in our department. We should not say that verbal orders, okay, or telephone orders should be strictly banned. Written orders. And these days we prefer electronically printed prescriptions or handover notes. That will lead us to minimize the transcription errors or prescription errors. So next is, as we discussed, improve the effectiveness of communication among caregivers. Improve the safety of using medication. So high alert medications we have. So we have to prepare and stringently follow the protocols for that. Reduce the harm associated with clinical alarm systems. Reduce the risk of healthcare associated infection. So clinical alarm system is related with patient falls, patient or equipment failure. So it should be immediately treated. It should be immediately diagnosed and then treated before it harms the patient. So that is why we use the clinical alarm systems. Then healthcare associated infection. Yes, in itself it is a big issue, and all healthcare system is trying to overcome this issue and ensure correct site, correct procedure and correct patient surgery. These are the international patient safety goals set by JCI. So International Patient Safety Goal itself is a separate standard or separate chapter given in JCI accreditation system. So the hospitals who wants to who wants to enroll itself for JCI accreditation has to start its efforts moving towards these goals. So WHO also has given us solutions for patient safety failures. So what are the solutions? These are the solutions by WHO. So management of look-alike, sound-alike medications. If you manage them well, that to avoid the look-alike, sound-alike medical errors, your medical errors will drop significantly. In patient identification. Next is communication during patient handovers. Performance of correct procedure at correct body site. Control of concentrated electrolyte solutions. Assuring medication accuracy at transitions in care. Avoiding catheter and tubing misconnections. Single use of injection devices and improved hand hygiene to prevent health associated infections. And what about Indian scenario? Ministry of Family and Health and Welfare of India has designed National Patient Safety Implementation Framework. Okay? And the goal of this framework is to improve patient safety at all levels of healthcare across all modalities of healthcare provision, including prevention, diagnostic, treatment and follow-up, within overall context of improving quality of healthcare. Okay, so what is the ultimate goal of patient safety implementation framework? Is improving quality of care. Okay. So, and with this, we will progress towards universal health coverage. So, in this connection, NHSRC. Okay. NHSRC has developed uh, has has published a paper which says that what are the constituents of patient safety. So here are the constituents of patient safety. First is safety of clinical care. As we discussed that first and foremost reason of existence of hospital is to provide safe clinical care. Next is physical safety. Then comes safe environment in hospital, monitoring and evaluation, fire safety, safety of engineering and support services. So what is physical safety? Physical safety includes safety of healthcare infrastructure, that includes design or maintenance programs of your infrastructure, location of critical department, segregation of general and patients traffic within the hospital, provision of ramps, or annual preventive maintenance of equipments. It also includes the measures taken for making building earthquake resistance, especially in earthquake area. So these are the factors under physical safety. So how do we ensure safety of electrical installations as well? So physical safety, we have to ensure safety of electrical equipment installation. Then safety of engineering and support services. This includes safe installation and operation of hospital equipment, periodic inspection, then emergency alarm system for lifts, then support services will also include your medical gases, okay, or communication channels, pneumatic tubes. So everything will fall under safety of engineering and support services. Fire safety, yes, very important. Fire extinguisher, fire exit plan, mock drill of staff, fire fighting equipment, evacuation plan, everything should fall in place. So while providing safe environment in hospital, we need to maintain clean and hygienic environment in patient care areas. And it is very essential for containing the hospital acquired infections. Then safe clinical care, the most important thing. Safe clinical care. The most important parts of safe clinical care are prevention of infection, okay, and use of proper prevention of infection and proper medication, and surgical surgical errors, avoiding surgical errors. With this we can provide safe clinical care. So here are few principles while we are addressing the safety issues. The first and foremost principle of any of medicine is first do no harm. If you cannot help in betterment of patient condition, then do nothing. Okay. So don't give any treatment that will deteriorate the patient's condition. So first we have to keep this in mind, that first do no harm. So whenever the next is, why did things go wrong? Whenever any adverse event occur, we go for analysis. What went wrong? Okay, so we have to analyze it, what went wrong, how it was wrong and how it can be corrected. So moving ahead of this approach, the new concept is coming that instead of retrospectively analyzing what went wrong, keeping a futuristic approach, we should see that why do things go right most of the time? Why 1 in 10 hospitalizations cause in safety failure? What happened in rest of the 9 cases? What went correct in rest of the 9 cases? So we will compare, so same protocol we have to follow in that remaining one as well. Okay, so keeping this attitude in mind, so whatever I am doing for better patient outcome for the rest of the 9 patients, the same procedure is to be followed for the remaining 10th one. Okay. So with these approaches, we can keep the risk of harm as low as reasonably practicable. Okay. So this should be our attitude while we are delivering care. So here are a few strategies to improve patient safety. So clinical level strategies are improving communication. Yes, communication is very crucial within the team. Okay, so while we are improving the, we are implementing team building strategies for improving communication. We have to build up a strong communication technology also. This will also help us to overcome the communication barrier. Then comes reporting adverse events. Successfully preventing adverse events relies on comprehensive and systematic data collection, analysis. So broad participation is essential. This is possible only when a non-punitive system is available. Yeah, unless we have a fearless environment about reporting of the incidents, nobody will speak up. Okay, so that is why we require a non-punitive system. Then next is increasing patient involvement. When sufficiently informed about prescription of medication, patient can help recognize and intercept mistakes related to dosage or their medication and interaction between the drugs. So these are the findings of few research studies. So that is why we need to involve the patient or families so that mistakes based on if a clinician is unaware of any allergies or medical problem earlier, uh, we can avoid it. If patient is aware about his treatment plan or the family member is aware about his treatment plan, he can intervene. So that is why we involve we ask for involvement of patient and families. And the most important is developing protocols and guidelines. So one way of avoiding human error is to reduce reliance on short-term memory. Yes, we have short-term because we have to see, one nurse has to see almost 10 patients. So she should remember that I have already administered the drug. I should not one more time administer the drug. So we should avoid relying on our memories. Instead, we should rely on checklists, protocols, guidelines, or reminders. Okay, so we should use the color coding or for lookalike, sound-alike drugs, so as to provide effective care. And what are the organizational level strategies? First and foremost, it is leadership commitment to safety culture. So our leaders need to establish and implement quality improvement program within any organization. The crucial function of leader in this regard is to balance between mistakes with discipline and uh, a just culture of even sometimes holding accountable the person who is associated with the mistake. Sometimes the leader has to has to hold him accountable for his mistake. Completely we cannot say that there is a non-punitive culture, because society, we are accountable to the society. So that is why the leadership plays here a very important role. The reckless acts will not be tolerated. So that is why in such culture, workers are encouraged to report adverse event and seek solutions. The next is public disclosure. The ethics of healthcare imply that patients have the right to know if there are any significant deviations from the norm during medical treatment. The public experts, healthcare organizations to be accountable and disclose problem related to patient safety, and the entire system will be committed to optimizing patient safety. The media play an important role in shaping public opinion and raising awareness. This will lead to fairness and transparency in the system. Educating healthcare providers on safety culture. On-site experience and continuing education of staff help establish positive attitudes toward preventing adverse events. When healthcare workers are faced with punitive or economic, emotional, or professional consequences arising from a reported patient safety incident, it is less likely that they will disclose an incident or learn from it. So finding a balance between blameless culture and accountability to the public is critical for an effective and safe healthcare. It is widely held that hospitals should disclose adverse events and work toward system improvements. So how do we, so once we are ready with all our quality improvement goals, patient safety goals, and we have our complete quality improvement plan. So how will we assess it? So here comes the quality indicators in pictures. Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality have developed 4 modules of quality indicators. And of that 4 modules, one is patient safety indicators. So basically, quality indicators are standardized evidence-based measures of quality, healthcare quality that can be used with readily available hospital inpatient administrative data to measure and track clinical performance and outcomes. So patient safety indicators provide on potentially avoidable safety events and represent opportunities for improvement in delivery of care. More specifically, they focus on potential in hospital complications and adverse event following the surgeries, procedures, and childbirth. So with these indicators, the hospitals can assess the incidence of adverse events. So what are these indicators? Here is the list of indicators that we use to assess our patient safety program. So pressure ulcers, mortality rate of surgical inpatients, post-operative hip fracture, post-operative respiratory failure, post-operative sepsis. So here is a broad list of patient safety indicators. So how can we prevent these adverse events? Here are few preventive measures for the adverse events. To prevent the healthcare associated infections, we have to follow the protocols: hand hygiene protocol, care bundle for catheter insertion, care bundle for central line insertion, safe surgery checklist we have to use. So to avoid the medication error, we have to use the 5 rights: that right patient, right drug, right dose, right time, and right route. Because adverse drug reactions also can be prevented with the help of medication administration protocols. We have checklists, we have guidelines. So every time we have to use them. You should not rely on our memory. Okay. So or we should not rely on the verbal orders. So written protocol, written orders are very important while we are giving medication. So to avoid venous thromboembolism, risk assessment, anticoagulant protocols and checklist. For pressure ulcers, prevention protocols. So like position changing after 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever protocol is designed by the hospital. Patient falls, fall risk assessment, provision of infrastructure provision to assist the patient against such unforeseen events. Failure to rescue, wrong or delayed diagnosis, wrong site procedure, and patient misidentification. So here are the list of adverse events and here are the list of preventive measures. So these we can implement. Okay. So what are the commonly used tools for minimizing the occurrence of adverse event? So here we are discussing the two tools, that is root cause analysis and failure mode and effect analysis. So what is root cause analysis? Root cause analysis is a system approach Okay, it is a process of identifying the basic or causal factor underlying the variation in performance, including the occurrence or possible occurrence of a sentinel event. Root cause analysis is a retrospective approach to error analysis, a structure and process focused framework identifying the system and organizational flaw that lead to an adverse event. So here are the questions that we ask while we are doing the root cause analysis. What happened? Who was involved? When did it happen? Where did it happen? So whatever answers that come with this root cause analysis, we have to analyze those answers and identify the corrective measures. So one more tool is failure mode and effect analysis. In this, we examine that earlier we have seen the principles that what right was done in those cases where everything went normal. So with that principle, failure mode and effect analysis, that how we can prevent the system to fail. Where are the incidences where the system may fail? So identify those instances and correct them before any failure occur. Okay, so these are the steps in this failure mode and effect analysis. Setting up a process of flow diagram, retracing the process and simulating what went wrong. Deciding how failures can affect the system. Ranking the possibility of an adverse event. Ranking the severity of adverse event. Ranking the likelihood of intercepting adverse event. And finally, taking action. So root cause analysis is a reactive method, whereas failure mode and effect analysis is a proactive method. So here are few general guidelines to addressing the concerns of patient safety. Simplify and standardize workplace, equipment, supplies and processes. Establish constraints that encourage and drive medical professionals to do the right thing, like providing an electronic medical record chart that provides visual cues to accurately chart a patient's information. Reduce the reliance on memory and other weak aspects of cognition. Foster robust communication between stakeholders to encourage a comprehensive understanding of problems associated with patient safety. Communication failure often contributes to preventable patient harm events. Conduct training for medical professionals so that they are well equipped to perform their responsibilities. Plan interdisciplinary training programs and collaboration on areas such as patient care simulation. Ensure that managers and leaders in organization continually contribute to the process of improving quality. Build an organizational culture that strikes a balance between fairness and accountability and is conducive to ongoing quality improvement. Collate patient safety data, monitor and evaluate errors and implement methods to reduce them. So in the nutshell, we have these are the approaches to improve safety and quality. Enhance knowledge-based safety, identify and learn from errors, try to bring transparency and accountability in the system, use of information technology to correct your errors, preparing the workforce, creating safety system inside the healthcare organization, and most important, engaging your patients and families. So patient safety is a broad subject incorporating latest technologies such as electronic prescribing, redesigning hospitals, and services to washing hands correctly, being a team player. So with this, I will say that patient safety is a cornerstone of any quality improvement program. So that is why before we are moving towards the quality improvement program, we have to pay attention to our safety failures. We have to address those issues and then we will be able to deliver quality of care. So with this, I will end my lecture and let us proceed to queries if there are any. Thank you and have a very wonderful year ahead. Happy New Year to all of you. If you have any queries, you can type in the chat box. I think there are no any queries, and even we are done with our 1 hour lecture. So I will declare the session to come to an end.